Addictions. We're talking about addictions today. Um, Addictions don't always start out in rebellion. Did you get that? Addictions don't always start out in rebellion. In fact, more often than not, it's people nibbling their way into innocent amusement. And sometimes it could be the only way of escape of a real tragedy. A friend of mine calls me in the middle of the night and tells me my young son's sugars are in the north of 20 something. Your blood sugar. Do you know what that means? Someone yesterday talked about sickle cell. So get down from the mountaintop feeling, you go in the valley of reality. Do you know what you want to do again? Let me be practical. I'm not being sinister or anything. Guys, the first time there's this beautiful lady and all of a sudden she came and hugged you. You know, probably you've been crushing on her. What happens in your body? What happens in your body? There's a feeling that comes, right? Such that when she lets go, your body will keep on telling, I want to experience what I did, what I expect. Now, I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong at this point. I'm just stating facts, right? So don't go and quote me to start hugging people. Eh? I'm just stating facts. So there's a feeling that you feel, or the lady, you know. So now what happens to your body is that that dopamine keeps on being released. So now you want to go back to that alcohol, to that drug, so that you get the first what? Feeling. But here's the catch. You never get the first feeling. So do you know what you do? If you took 1 cup, you need to take 2 cups to try and reach what? The first feeling. But as you take it, you need to take more to get as near a feeling as the first one you got where? The first time. And here's where the problem comes in. Because now you discover that where you needed 1 bottle of alcohol, you need what? 10. And where you needed to spend 20 kwacha, you need to spend what? 500 kwacha. And where you had money to acquire 1 bottle, you now cannot afford to get what? 10 bottles. And guess what happens? You start stealing. Because you reach a point where your body is so dependent upon those that if you cannot take it, there are severe cases where if you cannot take that, you are actually rendered incapacitated. You cannot think properly. You cannot even study. Sometimes you even start shaking. Sometimes it manifests physically that you'll be sweating, you'll be perspirating, your heart will be racing so much so that you are only functional when you're a bit tipsy. Okay? I had a friend when I came in first year at UNZA, should have been 2013. I had never seen him sober until he was excluded. In fact, when he had not drunk, you'd think he's sick. You would actually ask him, boy, what's wrong? But when he's drunk, it's like the lights have been turned on. You know? And for him, he could go to any length to get the alcohol, so much so that he would use up his money for school fees sometimes, you know, just to get what? The alcohol. I had given, I hope my roomie is not watching wherever he is. I had a good friend of mine. I asked him to go and buy relish. And you know what he does? He gets that money. So now he knows that he wants to first get a high feeling. He goes to the center. Where is the center? There's a center somewhere this side. And uses the money. I told him that this money, boy, is for what? Relish. And he goes to buy what? Alcohol. So then afterwards, I'm waiting for him. So he comes back to him and tells me, boy, sorry. I think itumba dashani. Dashtulika indalama napo. Naponya. So now, luckily, there was another friend of mine who said, he came at, yeah. Your friend was wasted today. I found him drunk at the what? At the center. In fact, to make things worse, I found him at the ATM system. He was pushing his what? The card in. So when I went closer, I found he was putting his ID card in the what? He was pushing his ID card in the ATM. So he was so upset that the machine was not what? Working. But actually what he was putting is what? Was a student ID card. So when he came and told me, that's when I told him, my other friend has told me what happened. Then he says, look, tie my legs and leave my hands. Please, forgive me, I drank. I used that money for what? For alcohol. But this is the last time. You can quote me up to this day. whether that was the last time or not. But remember, now he had gotten used to drinking so much so that he could do anything to get a little bit tipsy, because for him that was his new functional state. Okay? And here are the challenges that comes with addictions. Relationships break. Because you agree with your mate, your fiancé, your brother, your sister, let's meet at 17 hours. You go drinking, you are going to forget what time you're going to what? Meet your appointment. I had an uncle, he was very lucky, he would always find jobs. But you know, guess what? Because he loved drinking, every moment he would go for an interview, he would almost always go drunk. And they would almost always chase him at the very what? Door. But whenever he applies, because his grades are good, you know, on paper, they look like this is a sane human being. But when he comes for interviews, they see a wasted what? A wasted person. And he missed several opportunities. Okay? You all have, if you don't know your family, go for a funeral gathering. Then you know who's who. A certain gentleman of mine was at Shula at Zikas. He was doing a car ACC or something. He was very brilliant. But he tells me one thing, look, I started with a little bit of alcohol, and now I cannot function without it. Even when people are crying, him is crying for what? For beer. Even when people are crying, he's crying for beer. This gentleman could not walk straight at all. Strangely though, but he was very good at driving. He cannot walk himself home, but he can drive everyone home. Okay? So now, in a nutshell, I'm looking at my time is even coming to a wrap. So now what addiction does is that ultimately it shrinks your brain. Do you know that it shrinks your brain? Both mentally and physically. Your brain does what? Shrinks. It causes disconnections in your neural pathways, so much so that in the initial phases, because there's a hype of dopamine and all those other things, you tend to look very high functioning person, right? But over time, your brain degrades. You tend to have brain fog. Okay? But there's remedy to that. Once we stop these addictions, the brain has got what we call neuroplasticity. It can regenerate in ways that we create new neural pathways. So the old pathways that were damaged and distorted can be bypassed and new neural pathways can be created. And that's the whole idea even of behavior change. Okay? So I'll leave you with this. So to break a habit, make it hard to do it. Okay? Make it unpleasant. So if you notice that you always find it easy to drink alcohol, avoid places where there's alcohol. If you notice that you only drink when you're with James, stop hanging around with what? James. If you notice that you only smoke when you want to please ladies around because you have more courage, avoid those ladies that you want to please because you need courage, right? Okay? If you notice that you only take those drugs when you're in pain, and others real pain, when you're in pain, visit the health center, visit the hospital. That way you avoid prescribing and ultimately what? Addictions. I could go more and more, but then whenever I see the man of God standing, I'm also a man of God. Okay, I'm a child of God, he's a man of God. And some of you are sons of God. I'm a child of God. I'll now give way for the man of God. As you sons and daughters of God do what? Listen, all right. I hope you've gotten one or two cents from what I've said. I could go more and more, but I think I'll end here and I'll take my seat. Be blessed.